they're entitled, you had one job. And you look at them and some of them are pretty obvious. And probably from this distance, you can tell there's something wrong with that tile floor. They misplaced one of the black tiles. Even from the back of the room, you can probably see that. But what is our job? Restored, okay. I went to a financial advisement seminar from Dave Ramsey, and one of the things that he said, and I don't know if he's the first person to say it or not, is if you don't have a target, you'll hit it every time. So we have to have a plan. We have to have a target. What is our goal? So my lesson this morning is entitled, "What is my job?" I go apply for a job. If I'm working in the civil service environment, they have, I think it's called a PDS, Position Description Summary. These are the things that you're supposed to be able to do to get hired to fulfill this job. In the Navy, and I'm sure other services are very similar, is before you can go do this job by yourself or as part of a team, you have to complete a job qualification requirement, a J2R. And it's not, I just have to say I know how to do this. There's sign-offs, and you have to prove or demonstrate to somebody that you can actually complete those tasks safely. Some of those qualifications take a long time. If you try to get your surface warfare designation in the Navy, it can take you an entire tour on a ship to get that done, because there's a lot of, you have to be able to do pretty much every position on that ship. So it can be a little thing. I have to learn how to lock the doors, how to turn on and off the lights or the air conditioners, or it can be a very detailed thing of launching a weapon or fueling an aircraft. We've all seen pictures like the ones that I put on the table where somebody had one job and they didn't quite do it right. And we laugh. And we laugh because it didn't impact me adversely. It didn't happen in my house or in my job environment. We come into this world completely dependent on others. I come in here as a baby. I cannot do anything for myself other than breathe. I'm dependent on mom, dad, grandparents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters to meet my every need. I cry, they figure out what the problem is, and they resolve it. As we get older, we become independent gradually, sometimes too rapidly when we outgrow our britches, and then we get put back in our place. However, we continue to grow. We become less dependent on our parents, maybe more dependent on our siblings and our friends, maybe aunts and uncles, maybe other people at school, teachers. We grow up, we get an education, still dependent on others to teach us properly, teach us the truth. And then someday we get that dreaded three-letter word, a job. And then we've reached it. We have reached independence. But when I get a job, am I really independent? Unless I maybe work for myself. And even then, I have questions. But I get a job, now I'm dependent on my employer, my coworkers, my landlord, emergency services, law enforcement. I'm still dependent on a lot of other people to do their job. At some point, we may become dependent on our children. Regardless of our vocation, I work on computers. Regardless of my vocation, what is my job? Why am I here? Okay, worship God. Anybody else?
Do the Lord's work.
Okay, do the Lord's work. Help others. Like it or not, I am an example to those around me, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I don't get a choice. I don't get a choice of who gets to see what I'm doing. Do I? Okay, God's always watching, but what if I go do something crazy out in the parking lot out here? Am I representing the Lord when I do that? Do the people out there watching think I'm representing the Lord? Possibly. Should I continue in my sin and let grace abound?
No.
Okay. In Romans 6, verses 1 and 2, what shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? I heard a story, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a unmarked law enforcement vehicle going down a road, and in his rearview mirror, he sees this car going in and out of traffic and waving his arms at people. And as it goes by him, he notices a bumper sticker. Follow me to my place of worship. So he's thinking, he's like, that car must be stolen. He pulls the car over. Why did he pull the car over? The behavior didn't match the advertised behavior. Somebody was in a hurry. I don't know if that story is true or not, but what would people think of my behavior driving to church this morning? Would that bumper sticker be okay?
Can you speak? I'm hard of hearing. Can you speak up just a little bit?
Okay.
And it's the air back here running. So.
I can fix that.
I'm sorry. I can move up closer.
Would I have gotten pulled over for my driving this morning if I had had that bumper sticker on the back of my car? Okay.
Probably not in this town.
Okay.
But other than like large cities, like that.
Okay. You just got a new job, and your boss says there are only 2 responsibilities for this new job. Just 2. And you think to yourself, great, this is going to be easy. And then the boss shows you the 2 responsibilities. He lowers the projector screen, turns on the projector, and the screen displays, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And the second one, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Ever been to a job that those are 2 job requirements? But they expect that, don't they? Maybe not the first one, but they expect the second one. They want you to treat your customers, if you're in retail, they want you to treat your customers the way you want to be treated. I've never waited tables, but I imagine that when you wait tables, you go to get the drinks for the people at the table, the first thing you do with the glass is fill full ice. And then you put your beverage in it, and then you take it to the table. And then you get some really high maintenance customers like me. It's like, can I get that with no ice, please? It's different. I have difficult customers sometimes. I have difficult coworkers sometimes. In Matthew 22, verses 33 to 39, in the ESV, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Wouldn't that be awesome if that was your job description at work? Or that was the company goal? Probably not very likely in the world today. Our job is to follow these 2 commands. How hard is that?
It'd be very difficult.
Some days it is very, very difficult. Is there ever a day that is really easy? Is it easier when you're in a group like this? Is it easy standing in the line at Walmart?
Yeah, I get used to it.
Right. If I have a 50-foot telephone pole laying here on the floor, I cannot budget it by myself. Cannot do it. With some tools that men have invented, I can roll it. I can get a block and tackle and a rope, and I can drag it. But can I move it very far like that? What if 10 of us try to move that pole? A little easier? With the right tools and the right talents, can I stand that pole up and put a light fixture on it or run cables to it? But I can't do it by myself. Every one of us have had challenges in our lives that we cannot deal with by ourselves. But some of us sometimes are just too proud to ask for help. So what is my job? If you have that telephone pole, is it my job to see that you have that and help you with that? Is it your job to help me with that telephone pole? And it may not be a telephone pole. Sometimes I just need encouragement. Every one of us has days that are challenging. Some of them are just hard. I have a challenge at work because I have a hard time getting people to follow directions. I work on equipment all over the country. Most of the time I'm doing it remotely. This last week I went down to Orlando. A couple weeks I'm going to Connecticut because people can't follow directions. That is a huge challenge for me. I spend hours documenting the process and verifying that I can repeat this process maybe 50 or 100 times. And it works properly every single time. And then 1,000 miles away, somebody's trying to put this stuff together and they're like, hey, it doesn't work, so we just found a way to make it work. That is a huge challenge for me. And some days I come home and I'm like, wow, am I that much different than other people in my field? But all of that aside, all of the work stuff, my real job doesn't matter what my day-to-day vocation is, really, does it? As long as it's not violating God's word. So I get a job because I need groceries. I know it doesn't look like I've missed many meals, but we all need to eat. We all need water. We need a roof over our head. We like air conditioning. So I have to have a job to provide those things for myself and my family. And you guys do too. But why am I really here? Why did God allow me to wake up one more day?
Need you.
I don't think God's finished with me yet.
Job's not done yet.
We all have talents. We all have abilities. We have all been through experiences that other people in this room may have never experienced. I have lost a brother. I understand that pain. I've lost my mom and my dad, and I know that pain. But before I lost either of my parents, I had no clue what that was like. But I knew people who had gone through those experiences. And they helped me get through that. And as brothers and sisters in Christ, if I don't tell you that I'm hurting, how are you going to know that I need help? If I don't confide in my brothers and sisters, how can I ever get better? I don't have a lot of people that I would feel comfortable calling up on a Saturday afternoon and say, do you have some time that we can talk in person? And when that person says, sure, name the place, that's a true brother. Can I be that for you? Can you be that for the other people at your table? Other people in this congregation? I think that's part of our job. If I've been laid off from work or I've lost everything I had in a house fire, that can be pretty devastating. I've never been in either of those two situations. Can I still help somebody in that situation?
Yes.
But I have to have my eyes and my ears open. I have to be aware of what's going on and look for the need. And then share with what I have, whatever talents and abilities I have to help those people.
Brother Q, you bring up a great point. Sometimes it's not the material things, it's sometimes just speaking to someone and say, hey, I understand your pain. I understand what you're going through. What makes it a whole lot easier is when we have God in our lives and we share that same common spirituality, because we know through prayer and talking to our brothers and sisters, that help us get through this. Because I know it works for me. I know every time I come in here, you guys edify me. You guys help me through my day-to-day process. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you every Lord's Day. Sometimes I can't be here. It's not like I don't want to be here, but sometimes things goes on in our lives which put us in different locations. But each and every time I see Sister Barbara or any brothers and sisters in here, it makes me feel good. And I understand. Like I said, it's not a material thing. Sometimes seeing your brother or your sister or just talking to them. So on that Saturday, you need somebody to talk to, you call me. And we'll go out and meet.
I love class.
So everybody in here has probably helped somebody else in need. You feel good when you do that? Yes. So even if I'm having a rough time, if I can help somebody else, do I feel better? God made us in His own image. Do you think that's an accident that we feel better when we help other people? I don't think so. Do.
The scripture, what James says, see if you can do it and not do it, and sin. We have to do it.
There's probably a few people in the world, maybe even in this room, that taught themselves how to ride a bicycle all by themselves. I'm not one of those people. I remember my dad literally running down the street, holding onto the back of the seat while I was trying to learn how to balance the bicycle. And then sometimes he would just let go without saying anything. Look, you're doing it all by yourself. You've learned a new skill. It's very rewarding when I learn how to do something new and I can be successful at it. Learning how to ride a bicycle, I don't think we had bicycle helmets then. Pretty sure we didn't. I fell a few times, but I can still ride a bicycle or a tricycle. It's much easier to learn how to ride a bike when you have a parent, a friend, a sibling that helps hold the bicycle while you're learning, even after the training wheels come on. Today, in all this technology, we have a thing called YouTube, and you can learn how to do just about anything. I learned how to fix my washing machine this week. I had no clue what the cause was. I had an error code on my washing machine because it's got a little computer in it. And yesterday I was able to finish fixing it. Took me a few days, but I got it.
It helps to have a friend like you.
But there's a maybe that goes along with YouTube.
Inappropriate.
Because there's things that have, I've seen many of them that say, this is how you can do these things to increase your internet speed. And some of them are total garbage. They will not do anything to help your internet speed. Whether they're trying to sell you a thing or they're telling you, hey, wrap this wire in the aluminum foil or wrap another cable around it. A lot of it's garbage. The internet can be a wonderful tool, but it can also be very disruptive. There's a lot of things on the internet in general that shouldn't be there. I can't make them go away. When I was growing up, we didn't have digital cameras and the internet. Some of the younger people going into politics today, what's going to happen when somebody digs up their YouTube feed or their Facebook? It doesn't go away. So what is my job? If we really think about it, my job is to be like Jesus. I will never be like Jesus. I will never be perfect. None of us will. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't try. Can I be there to listen when a friend, coworker, or neighbor just needs to talk? When my neighbor calls at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, my husband fell out of bed, can you come over and help me get him out? Can you come over and help me while we're waiting for the ambulance to get here? Can I pick up this sometimes wonderful piece of technology and call somebody that wasn't at Sunday school class, or wasn't at Wednesday night Bible study, or didn't make it to worship service and they're almost always here? Or what about the visitor? Somebody we've never seen before. But they fill out the little card and it goes to the office, and Lance makes sure several people get those numbers. How hard is it to pick this up and call? Do I even know who my next door neighbors are? I have great neighbors. If my car sits in the driveway too many days in a row, they call and say, hey, Peter, are you okay? I noticed your truck hasn't moved. It's like, yeah, I'm working from home this week. Or I'm in Orlando with a rental car. But they notice, they care. A neighbor's replacing a window and he's like 85 years old, but he's out there ready to do it by himself. But then his wife has second thoughts about it. Says, hey, why don't you call your neighbor? Hey, Hugh, can you come over and do you have time Saturday to help me replace the window? It's like, okay. Took us a couple hours, we're done. But if I tried to do it by myself, it was my window, and I tried to do it by myself, and I don't quite get it in place, and it ends up in pieces on the ground, where did I gain? That little chore helps me build a relationship with my neighbor. I'm not a baker, or a butcher, or a candlestick maker. I figured I'd get a response on that. However, I can find out what somebody's favorite food is. And if I can't make it, I can probably find somebody that can, or I can buy it. I know if I want banana pudding, I know where I'm going. Bobby. job, in my opinion, is to be a servant. But I can't be a servant if I have my head in the sand. Or if I never answer my phone when somebody calls. Or, text. If I'm not aware of the needs of those around me, how can I be a servant? I can call myself a servant all day long. But if you're not there to be called, or don't respond to the call, I'm not a very good servant. The telephone pole example that I mentioned earlier may have seemed like a crazy example and may not be anything that you can really relate to, but we all have challenges. Every single one of us has challenges. And yes, I have a pretty easy life. I really do. Bridget and I have been blessed. But everybody still has challenges. So what I'd like to ask with a little bit of time that we have left, when you were younger, is there a chore or a job that you had to do while still at home that helped you become a better Christian? I had a chore at house when I was growing up that I had to do dishes after dinner. And sometimes I dilly-dally doing dishes until it was like way past bedtime. But I learned some things about hydrodynamics. Always playing washing dishes. And then I delivered newspapers and shovel snow up in Buffalo. It's a full-time job in the winter. And so I bought my mom a dishwasher. With Dad's help. Guess who still helped do dishes? What did they teach me? They taught me some responsibility. Any volunteers, chores, or first jobs? Babysitting?
Siblings that are all younger.
Okay. Amy?
I do house painting.
Okay. Yes.
I can't think of a single thing when I was young. But I do not mind helping people at all. And I think that was just the way I was raised. You open the door for a lady. You take people to the doctors when they need it. It's just all kind of things. I'll tell you something very funny that didn't turn out exactly right for me helping somebody. I had taken this man to the doctor and waited with him for a couple of hours. We then went to Sam's Club, and when we were going out, there was this frail little lady that probably didn't weigh 100 pounds, pushing a dolly, one of these 3 feet by 5 foot dollies, stacked to the top. So I asked my neighbor, I said, would you mind if I pushed this to the parlor? So I did. Then I helped her load it, and when I got back, he was angry at me because he had to wait on me for about 10 or 15 minutes for helping somebody. And I was mad as heck when I got home, and I told my wife, I said, I don't know why I helped that man, but I still will again. But so things don't always turn out good by helping people because maybe you've taken away from somebody else. I don't know. But that was just an incident that happened. But I will do it again, without question.
I remember as a child sitting or being in the car with my parents before seatbelts and standing on the hump in the back seat. And my dad would stop because somebody was on the side of the road with a flat tire. And it could be pouring down rain or snowing, whatever. My dad would stop, help them out, and then he'd come back and tell us all about them, where they're from, where they're going. And never complaint one about how cold it was, how wet he got. And we never knew those people, probably never saw them again in their lives. Would you think it made an impression?
Yes.
one last story. I was stationed in Diego Garcia, and yep, in the Indian Ocean. It's a coral atoll in the Indian Ocean. Most beautiful place I've ever been in the world. No, you can't go get a hotel room there. You can only go there with a 1-year sentence. Anyway, I came home on like R&R, and Betty Williams helped me surprise my bride. She was teaching over at UCS, and so Betty helped me. She picked me up at the airport. I got flowers and walked over to school, and you couldn't go to the classroom. You had to go to the office, and the office had to walk you to the room. And so Anna McCowan knocked on the door and said, Bridget, there's a parent here to see you. I am a parent? And she says, what are you doing here? Came home for Thanksgiving. Well, there's only one flight a week to Diego Garcia, and it goes from Norfolk to Naples to Bahrain to Diego Garcia. And it was full every week leaving Norfolk. I could not get on the plane. So I'm running out of leave time. So I got a commercial flight Christmas Day to go to Rome. And Terry Jensen from Gateway was the OIC at the Naples Air Base. And so he said that he could put me up till if I got there early, I could wait for the flight and hope somebody got off the plane in Naples. If not, I was going to be stuck again. So I flew to Rome. In Rome, somebody thought they needed my wallet more than I did. And fortunately, my military ID and my passport were in my boots, and my driver's license. So all I lost was money in my American Express card. I went to the USO, which was open on Christmas Day in Rome. And the gentleman there spoke very good English, probably better English than I do. And he called American Express for me. Got somebody that spoke English, told them what happened, and they said, where are you going to be tomorrow morning? And I said, well, I'm supposed to be in Naples tomorrow morning, but I don't have any money to get a train ticket or whatever. And so the guy at USO says, I'll get you to Naples. So he tells the guy at Amex that I'm going to be in Naples. So they tell me where in Naples to go tomorrow morning, the day after Christmas, to get my replacement card. The man gives me enough money for a train ticket to Naples and a meal. And I said, I need an address so I can pay you back. He said, no, pay it forward. Never seen him again. Never knew him. He's sitting in the USO as an Italian citizen helping U.S. servicemen. So I try to pay it forward. So please ask yourself.
Maybe he was a Samaritan.
Yep. So ask yourself, what is my job? Thank you for your time.